Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmatacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avadara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namah Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Jnanarupini Vidyarambham Garishyami Siddharbhavdu me Sada Gajananam Bhudaganadisevidam Kapittajam Bhuvalasara Bhakshidam Umasudam Soka Vinashagaranam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Garavavahi Tejasvinavadhidamastu ma Viddushavahai Om Shanti 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 Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hare Paramatmane Pranadakleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namah Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Sarvajñatvam Prasidame Rama Ramana Vishvesha Vidyamashi Prayachami Om Hari Om. So in our spiritual journey, sadhana plays a major role. Sadhana, in one way, in a simple way, we can define as something that is sadhyam, that is possible. Sadhana is also a means of uplifting us. You can say sadhana can become a ladder of transformation. Sadhana about what? Sadhana is all about understanding the true nature, the true self, the true nature of us. So sadhana is all about understanding or getting equipped to understand the true nature. We call it as in different ways like meditation on the self. Different ways of meditations are there. But when we see the different schools of meditation, meditation is something like meditate on something. Right? Meditate on something. For example, meditate on self. Meditate on, say, sun. Meditate on a sea. Because you have a kind of object. And you are trying to get that or achieve that or realize that or visualize that. Now we need to think differently. When you say meditate on self, now we need to understand that we cannot objectify ourselves. For that, what we need is you be the self. Don't think about something. Don't think about the self. You be the self. It is not about thinking about that self. You be the self means what? You be the pure form of your existence. Rather than thinking about a different self, you come to the core. Don't think about the self, you be the self. You then be aware of your own existence. You be aware of the consciousness that is the origin of all the thoughts which are happening. You be that consciousness. That is the true meditation. So that is the real sadhana. And the mantram for the sadhana should be I am the self. I am the self that gives all the possibilities. I am the self that is existence, consciousness, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Everything is myself. Everything is oneself. This has to become the conviction. I am the all-pervading consciousness in which all bodies and mind in this world are appearing and disappearing. Let's look into a microcosmic perspective here. I am the one who is witnessing the changes in this body. 20 years back, 10 years back, 1 year back, now. I am the constant consciousness which is able to witness the changes. When I say changes, the kind of appearance and disappearance happening, not only in the body, around us. In the body also you can see the changes happening. In the mind you can see the changes happening. In the capabilities, intellectual capabilities, you can see the changes happening. So the world of appearance and disappearance, the world of changes, you are able to witness. You, the unchanging consciousness, is able to witness the changes, the world of appearance and disappearance. And the one who is witnessing remains unchanged. There is no situation like the witnessing self is changing, and there is no situation like the witnessing consciousness is affected by these appearances and disappearances. There is no situation like the witness consciousness is affected or influenced by any of the names and forms, any of the namarupams. So it means my true self is the unchanging consciousness. So what one has to do is one has to stabilize. One has to stabilize in this knowledge. Now the problem is, instead of being at the core, we are at the periphery. When I say at the periphery, we are at the little self. We are at the plane of names and forms. We are at the plane of Prakriti. When we are at the plane of Prakriti, it is quite common that the influences of the Prakriti will happen. The influences of names and forms will happen. Influences of appearances and disappearances will happen. The influence of names and forms will happen. So now we need to transcend from the little self to the bigger self. Why we need to transcend? Because when we are at the periphery, when we are at the plane of objects, the disturbances from the names and forms, from the Prakriti, is bound to happen. In Vedantic terms, it's called as the Samsara Sagar. The influence of Samsara will be there. Shastram says, hey, you can overcome. When we say overcome, it is not a remedy or something. It is all about you come to your core. That is the solution. See, if something is happening outside your home, you will come to know if you are looking from your door or from your window. If those windows and doors are closed and you are not able to hear any disturbance from outside, then where is the question of the outside noise troubling you? Where is the question of the samsaram bothering you? Where is the question of outside noises creating distractions or disturbance in you when you are at the core? So, Shastram says that you can create a life, you can design a life that can go above all the petty things of samsara sagaram. How? By having consistent connect and relationship with the true self. The only way is by being with the core. When we say being with the core, the consistent connect, the consistent influence of the core in us can avoid the troubles coming from the plane of names and forms, from the plane of Prakriti. So that is where one should think more about the sadhana. When we say sadhana, sadhana is all about something that can be possible or that could be possible, that can bring transformation in us. So that's where we all have to invest our time in daily sadhanas. And the sadhanas can happen in multiple ways. Few of us would be doing yoga, meditation practices, meditative practices, prayer, puja, the daily routines. And any positive habits that includes reading positive books, helping people, doing service, making a good influence in others. So daily habit to uplift or transform ourselves. And why are we trying to do? We are trying to do this for enabling the mind to transform from a lower mind to a higher mind. Uplift our minds to a higher levels. Uplift our minds to the higher levels of understanding and awareness. So that is why we do, because yoga or any rituals or any practice that we do, it's all about uplifting our mind to equip more understanding about the higher potentials that we have, about bringing more and more awareness in us. When we do dhyanam, what are we doing? We are trying to meditate. We are trying to be with the core. When we do the jabam, what is happening? There is a mantram that is getting repeated, or the set of mantras that we chant. How it helps? It helps in understanding about our true nature. When we chant Vishnu Sahasranamam, Om Vishwam Vishnu Vashatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu, the one who pervades everywhere, Achyuta Pranida Achyutan or Madhusudanan. You see, all these mantras are talking about the potential that is there within us. Aprameyam, Apramata Pradishtida. All the mantras, if you see in the Vishnu Sahasranamam. And we are repeating it. We are repeating one by one. We are chanting. What is happening? There is an influence that is created in us about the higher levels of understanding about the true self. We becoming more aware of our own self. And when we do puja, dhyanam, jabam, or puja, when we do the worship, there is bhakti involved there. Bhakti about the higher nature. Offering services to that higher nature. When we do Swadhyayam again, the studies that are related to the truth, the studies that are related to our own existence, the studies that are related to who is God, the studies that are related to the connection between you and God, the studies that are related to what is the universal principle, the studies that are related to the interconnectivity of everything. So ultimately, the subject of all those studies is only one. And when we do seva, again, service to others, what is the kind of attitude one will have? The attitude is all about doing the seva to others, and the underlying thread is the same consciousness principle is pervading everywhere. And when I do a service to a needy, the God, the consciousness in that person is same. I respect that. And when we do tapas, austerity, it is all about bringing purity. Purity in the self, purity in that jiva. Purity in the jiva to transcend from the lower planes of the mind to the higher plane. So these are the different sadhana sampradaya that we use. Why we use? We use it for uplifting our minds from a lower plane to a higher plane. Also bringing understanding about the core. Understanding about, or the higher level of understanding about the awareness. That is where we need consistency. We cannot say, I will do sadhana only one time in a year. There has to be consistency. There has to be a lot of other attributes such as mental control, emotional control. So that is where one needs consistency. One way it is simple, because theoretically, we know that the whole journey is to transcend from a lower mind to a higher mind. But one thing we need to understand is, this is a journey. In this journey, how we can measure the success, measure the progress. I will not use the term success. The progress is all about, are we having an increased level of awareness day by day. So that is how the quality of our life is measured. You can say the progress in the journey can be measured by the capability that we are getting in terms of increased level of awareness. That is how we can say the quality of our life is also improving, because I am aware, the level of awareness in me is increasing. I am aware of this. I am having a consistent connect with my core. I do perceive the same truth when I see outside. I am also a part of the bigger system, and I cannot see any difference between me and others. So, when we have this kind of dominant attitude, we can say everything that I do, it will become a sadhana, because I am doing it with this awareness, right? So, what we are trying to do, we are trying to, what is the right word? Taming the lower instinctive nature of the mind, bringing a structured discipline, and also harmonizing the opposing elements. For example, when we try to do, maybe the lower instincts say that, yeah, why you should bother about it, but there is also an inner call that says that, yeah, there is a higher meaning that I should aim for. So that is where the harmonization of the opposing elements we should deal, because that is where it has to become a daily affair. It has to be a continuous process. It has to be a lifelong process. So every moment we need to act, no, 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 and realize. And again, it's a cycle: act, no, realize. We also know that everything in the world, all that we can see, all comprises of material objects. So matter is that which makes up the world. And we can also say that matter is always changing. The things around us are always changing. The names and forms are changing. Seasonal changes happening around us. Everywhere, things are changing. But you are not changing. Right? And also, the nature behind the object cannot change. The highest reality behind the changes cannot change, because there needs to be a common thread or a substratum that makes all the changes happen. So the highest reality behind the changes cannot be changed, meaning the subject behind the objects cannot undergo any transformation, and you are the subject. These objects are in your perception. The question is, who perceives this object? Are you all able to understand this? So this has to be the realization. The realization of the subject behind the objects, and understanding the subject as the unchanging principle behind the names and forms, behind the objects. And the subject cannot be different. There is only one subject. And the pure consciousness, the subject is all about existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute. The pure consciousness cannot change. It has to be omnipresent, it has to be omnipotent, it has to be omniscient. We are experiencing this daily, we are experiencing this. We are undergoing different states, the Avastatrayam, Jagrat, Swapnam, Sushupti. We have the waking state where the consciousness is associated with the body because the body is dominant, body is active, body interacts with the different objects in the world during the state of waking. And when it comes to the when it comes to the dream state, in the absence of body, the mind is experiencing this consciousness in the Taijasa Bhava. And in the deep sleep, this I is not experiencing any object because there is no object there. There is no object to be experienced, but in the deep sleep, we cannot deny that the existence is absent. Only the objects are absent. But we are in the state of ignorance. We can say the I remains shrouded in the ignorance. The consciousness in the waking, dreaming, and the deep sleep. If we put it in another way, is there any discontinuity in us when we are undergoing these three states? Is there any discontinuity in us? There is no discontinuity. That is why the self is the avastatraya sakshi. The self is the underlying essence of our existence. And the existence is not separate from this reality, from this core principle. Because you are not the object. You cannot be the object. You cannot be the body. You cannot be the mind. You cannot be any of the possessions. You are the self. And there is nothing apart from that self. So that is where Shruti again says, the world doesn't exist apart from the Brahman. You cannot exist apart from that self. The Ishvara, the Jiva, and the Jagat. These three are the different aspects of this Brahman. Ishvara as the internal ruler. We can say the Brahman as the internal ruler resides or dwells in all beings. And that reality is the material as well as the instrumental or material, instrumental and the efficient cause. We can say abhinna nimitta upadana karana. There cannot be anything apart from the subject. The subject is the cause. And it is beyond the space, time, object causation. And if you see again, Jivan, this consciousness, the unchanging consciousness, is the reality because that is not changing. And if you see the world around, things are changing. There has to be something which is not changing. There has to be something that has to act for the changes to happen. There has to be something changeless where the changes are happening. Ishwaran, Jivan, Jagat. Jivan and Jagat. If you see Jivan, transitions are happening. Asti, Jayade, Varthade, Vivaranavade, Apakshiyade, Vinashwati. And if you see the Jagat, Jagat is completely changing. Every time it is undergoing the Parinamam. So what is not changing? When you look at ourselves, we can say that I, the subject, I, the core, is not changing. And that is the core attribute. We can say that is the subject, that is the light, the ever effulging truth. That is the light that illumines all other lights. In Harinama Kirtanam, the verse is like Arkanaladi Vedivokke Grihikkumoru Kanninu Kannu Manamagunna Kannadinu Kannayirunna Porul Thanannurakkum Alav Anandamendu Harinarayanaya Nama. The Kanninu Kanna Manamagunna Manam. Or in the Kenopanishad, you can see Srotrasya Srotram Manaso Manoyat Vajoha Vajam Sau Pranasya Prana Chakshusha Chakshur Adimuchya Dira. The eye of the eyes, the ear of the ears, the mind of the minds. Meaning what? There is a core subject where all the objects are getting energy, all the objects getting illuminated. So there has to be something which is illuminating our lives. And what is that? You, the subject, you, the reality, you, the unchanging existence, consciousness, bliss principle. Realizing this is the ultimate God of our life. Let's see the 61st verse of Atmabodha. I think up to 60th we covered. Correct, yes. Yad bhasa bhasyaderkadi bhasyeryattu na bhasyate yena sarvamidam bhati tad brahmetyavadharayed. Yad bhasa arkadi bhasyate bhasyai ya na bhasyadetu yenam idam sarvam bhati tad brahma iti avadharayed. So what is that illumines the sun? Not only that, all the luminous or the other bodies that gives prakasha, be it stars, be it planets. So what is that which illumines all these luminous objects? In that includes the sun. भास्ये य न भास्यते तु येन इदं सर्वं भाति tad brahma iti avadharet. That has to be known as Brahman. Brahman is that which causes all things to shine, including the sun and all other luminous bodies. This Brahman, this truth, this self is the limitless, serene radiance. In the Yoga Vasishtam, there is one of the profound slokas. Divi bhumau tadakashe behirandascha me vibhu yo vibhyadi ava avabhasatma tasmei sarvatmane nama. Basically, it says the what is the right word? Soprakasham, the bodham which is there within us. That bodham is Sad Chid Anandam. That Brahman, that Atma, that bodham, that Soprakasham is the light of the lights. We can say Jodira Jodi, that shines everything. Brahman is the source of illumination of this world and is self luminous. In the Mundaka Upanishad, Tada Shubhram Jodisham Jodi. Everything shines after this principle. Let me ask a simple question. When we wake up, before the influence of mind comes, before the influence of everything, what comes first? There comes the light of existence in us, right? Then sequentially the different influences are coming in us. Meaning what? Everything shines after this principle. Every other things lie on this principle. So that is why Jodira Jodi, or the light of lights. Tad Brahma idi abadhariyet. We need to understand that Brahman is the light of everything. Brahman illumines the world, and this Brahman is self-luminous. And you are not different from that Brahman. Your true nature is Brahman. Because you are the light. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first verse and the last verse, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muhyandiyat Surya Tatshuddham Vimalam Vishogam Amrudam Satyam Param Dhimahi. The ever effulging truth, Satyam. You are the Satya Vastu. You are the Purna Vastu. You are the light. You illumines the world. And you yourself is self-luminous. Everything shines after this. So one has to understand this. In the next verse, 62, Swayam andarbhir vyapya bhasayan akhilam jagat brahma prakashate vanni pradaptaya sapandavad brahma prakashadevanni. Okay, brahma prakashadevanni pradaptaya sapindavad. So swayam andar behir vyapya bhasayan akhilam jagat. The supreme Brahman, right, shines by itself and it pervades the entire universe inwardly and outwardly, andar bahir vyapya, just as fire permeates the inside and outside of a red hot ball of iron. So we can see that if you heat an iron ball, essentially what is there inside a heat or a heated or a hot ball of iron? The heat. That heat is, or the fire is permeating inside and outside of a red hot ball of iron. Similarly, the supreme Brahman shines by itself and it pervades the entire universe inwardly and outwardly. So prakasham brahma swayam prakashade akhilam jagat bhasayan andar bahir vyapya, similar to vanni pradaptaya sapindavat. So Brahman cannot be the different attribute in the world of creation. Brahman cannot be different. That's why it's called as abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. The material and efficient cause is pure consciousness. And the matter principle, without this spirit or consciousness principle, is not having any meaning. And we need to understand that the matter plus this spirit or consciousness principle together expresses as the manifestation of life. When you appreciate your body, we need to understand that this manifestation is the combination of matter and spirit. And matter has no meaning without the spirit principle. Matter has no meaning without the consciousness principle. Okay, so this cannot be separated out from the manifestation. If you appreciate a manifestation, you need to understand that there has to be consciousness principle. But what we need to do in our meditation, we need to understand that in this body there is truth, and that truth is permanent. That truth cannot change. And the manifested body, the so-called object, doesn't have any meaning without the subject, without this truth. So one has to realize this subject in the meditation. Any sadhana should lead to knowing the true self. This is called as the Atma Vichara. One has to start the Atma Vichara. Any sadhana will help in doing the Atma Vijindana, the Atma Vichara. And ultimately the Atma Vichara will lead to the Atma Sakshatkar. And this has to be a journey. This is a continuum. This is a continuous process. Knowing the true knower. Akhilam Jagat. Akhilam Jagat Hasyati. The whole universe shines within and in this. Verse number 63. Jagadvilakshanam Brahma Brahmanonyanna Kinchana Brahmanyat Bhadi Chen Midhya Yadha Marumarichika Brahma Jagat Vilakshanam Brahmana Anyad Kinchana Na Brahmanyad Bhadi Ched Marumarichika Yada Mithya. There exists nothing that is not Brahman. Asti Bhadi Priyam Namam Rupam. Names and forms. There is no meaning to names and forms without the existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute, this Brahman. And if you think that if any object other than Brahman appears to exist, it is like a mirage that you see. You might have experienced the mirage. When you go near to that, you understand that this is unreal. There exists nothing that is not Brahman. There exists nothing without existence, consciousness, bliss. There is no names and forms without the underlying subject. There cannot be any independent existence to matter principle without the consciousness principle. There is no independent existence to matter without the spirit. So the Brahman permeates the entire creation, and there is nothing other than the Brahman. Ishavasya Upanishad says, Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Atma Vasyamidam Vishwam. And if you perceive anything different than Brahman, it can only be an unreal appearance. Just like you see a mirage in a desert. You appreciate Namarupam, no problem, but it cannot exist without the Asti Bhadi Priyam. Without the Chaitanyam, you cannot experience a name and a form. Nothing can be experienced without the Chaitanyam. So one has to understand the difference between this. So matter and consciousness principle, any manifestation is a combination of both. It doesn't mean that matter will have an independent existence. Without the consciousness principle, there is no meaning there is no manifestation at all. There cannot be any manifestation without the consciousness. Apart from the consciousness, nothing exists. Clear? Verse number 64. Drishyate shruyate yadyat brahmanonyanna tat bhaved tattvajnanacha tat brahma satchidanandamadvayam yad drishyate. But all things you can see or perceive. Shruyate tat. ब्रह्मणा अन्यद न भवेद तत्वज्ञानाद तद ब्रह्म सच्चिदानंदम advayam cha. So all that is perceived, all that is seen, all that is heard is Brahman, and nothing else can it be. And what one has to do, one has to attain this knowledge of the reality, sees this universe as the non-dual Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute. Meaning, consciousness presides over matter, and consciousness lends life to all our activities of perception, feeling, thinking, etc. If we go back to Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the 5th chapter, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, Naiva Kinjit Karomidi Yukto Manyade Tattvavid Pashyan Srunvan Sprishan Jikran Ashnan Gachan Soban Shwasan Pralapan Visrujan Grannan Unmishan Nimishan Nabi Indriyani Indriyartheshu Vartanda Idi Dharayan. So meaning what? Pashyan Srunvan Sprishan Jikran, seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eat, move, gacha, soban, shwasan, sleeping, breathing, pralaban, to interact, to talk, grannan, to accept, to visrujan, to give up, unmishan, nimishan, even opening your eyelids, closing the eyelids. Everything is happening, everything is designed. Are we putting any effort to sleep? Are we putting any effort to digest the food? And we say the pranan is enabling the digestion, and if the consciousness is not enabling the pranan to act, will the digestion happen? So the entire world of microcosm and the macrocosm, it is applicable to the entire universe, the entire set of laws, the universal laws, including the digestive process inside the human being, to the law of universe. What is that law? That law is Brahman. Brahman is the reality. So you need to search what is that reality. When the Shastram says you are that, our sadhana should turn inward and look for who am I? What is my true nature? What is my true purpose in life? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyade Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Any